everyone. We have another gathering here, Consciousness Cafe. We have an interesting guest this evening. Her name is Ellen Wielton. Used to be Weir, but she's since we met, she's gotten married and has a new last name.
It's actually where it is
Weir.
where it used to be Wilson. It's where
Oh, well,
yeah.
okay. I guess I'm behind the scenes or behind the times. All right. Well, in any event, um, I think I met Ellen probably a year and a half ago at an IANS conference.
Mhm.
If you don't know what IANS is, it's the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And once a year, they have a conference in a major city. They have people that come and make presentations, run workshops, and talk about their experiences. So it wasn't this, the first meeting was a year ago, this past Labor Day weekend. And we got to know each other a little bit then, but then we ran into each other again last Labor Day weekend. And I was impressed with Ellen made this wonderful presentation. I didn't get to hear it all, unfortunately, because I had some obligations, but I thought this is someone that needs to speak to Consciousness Cafe. She has a fascinating story. Music is an important component of that. So I'm hoping that we'll get a chance to challenge your thinking about things as you listen to Ellen's experiences and understand how much more we are than what we think we are. So, Ellen, why don't I start with that? If you would, oh, by the way, if you have, we're going to make a presentation, actually, more of a conversation for a period of time. And at some point, we'll open it up for questions and answers. If you, during the course of the presentation, if you want to put questions in the chat, if you want to wait till later, that's okay. You can also raise your hand when we're done, and we'll call on you to pose your questions to Ellen. So, all right. Well, Ellen, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what put you on the spiritual path? You had a life like pretty much everyone. You get started on living a normal human life, but then something happened that changed your life. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. I was just a normal kid growing up. I loved to ride horses, and I was riding horses. I was 12 years old one day, and the cinch slipped, and the I slipped under the horse and fell off, and the horse kicked me in the temple. And when that happened, I was taken to a local hospital in Texas in Hillsboro, and then soon, like they took me in an ambulance because I don't think they did care flights back then, but they took me to Waco. I was in a coma. I was unconscious for 5 days. And during that time, my parents were encouraged to play movies at my bedside. And that's a pretty important piece for later, because that was part of the miracle of the music that woke me up. So they started by playing old home movies. But on one day, they played a Disney movie that was about 90% classical music. And on that day is when I had my experience. And so I'll start with that. I don't remember hearing anything when I was in the coma. I remember finding myself on a raft. It was very different than the white light experience that a lot of people speak of. I was on a wooden raft of sorts, with giant, almost tree-like parts. It kind of looked like this because I had them recreate it for my cover. I was a child on this raft, and Jesus was in front of me. And there was a man to my left in long brown robes with bare feet. He was thin, like of average weight, with a bald head. And I felt very safe and very protected. And when I was on this raft, I felt this sense of safety with pink clouds on both sides, and then felt myself lifted off of that into a different realm. I first was taken to a realm that had music and bright white light and different colored streams and trees. And then from there was taken to the realm of golden light. And that's what I like to call it. This golden light was more of an experience than it was a place. I felt the weight of it. There was a fullness to the energy, and that's really important to explain because that was the experience. I didn't have a body, but I felt this weighted, loving energy all around me until the pressure of it just melted into the energy of my essence, and I just expanded into this beautiful golden light. And I felt whole and complete and love. I was complete love. Nothing that I had worried or thought about on this planet mattered at all. It was just love. There was no one word for it. And I, I was home. I was completely home. And in that moment, I could have been there a lifetime. I could have been there a moment. I was then taken back to the raft. And in the raft, I was in front of Jesus again, and he started to communicate with me through his thoughts. And he invited me to either stay in heaven or come back and live my life. And I remember at first that I wanted to stay. And because I didn't have a human mind, I had no construct at all. There was no right or wrong. Everything would have been right. And that's something I like to explain as well. Everything was okay. Everything was right. Everything would have corrected itself. But in that moment, I was shown the trajectory of my father's life and a little bit of my brother's lives, and told that my father wouldn't actualize his life on this planet if I were to choose to stay. Now, again, there was no right or wrong. My soul just knew this. And there were many other things that my soul knew in that moment. And I received much more information about the world and why we're here and all of that. But my soul chose to live. And when my soul chose to live, that is when I was flooded with gratitude. I knew that coming here to this planet is a gift. Not all souls get to do it. It's an honor. It's a gift. It's a huge gift to get to be here. And so then after I chose, I was flooded with this gratitude, so thankful that I got to come back and live, that I made a vow that I would heal people through music. And remember, I'm 12 years old. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't even think about that. I just say, I'm going to come back and heal people with music. That is my vow. Thank you for letting me live. And I also made another vow to give gratitude every day for every experience that happens, no matter whether I think it's good or bad or label it in one way or another. I know that it is part of the human experience and that it is a true gift to be here, and that we are here for a reason. So that is when the real miracle happened. I was gifted so many different different knowings from that moment. I was told that we're here for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, that we create our reality, there were so many things that most of what we worry about on this planet doesn't matter. It's a distraction from the reality of who we are and being present, that obviously this is a gift. And then everything went, there was so much more that came to me, just download after download after download. It was lifetimes of knowing, right? And then everything went dark, and I could see a music staff in the distance. And on the staff, I couldn't hear anything, but I could see different colored notes traveling on the staff as if it were like animated. It was very far away. And the staff got closer and closer to me, bigger and bigger and bigger, and then went through me. And there was darkness, but there was a light kind of far down. I point down because it's kind of far away, this distant light, but it wasn't just light, it was sound. And so it was almost inaudible. I could barely hear it. Everything in my being connected to that sound. I brought it into the consciousness, into my mind. I think now, and I know now, that I was pulling myself back into my body through the music. It got to the point where that inaudible sound became so loud in my head that the only way to escape it was to force my eyes open. And when I forced my eyes open, I was in the ICU of a Waco hospital. The nurse ran over, and I saw the credits of, it was a rolly cart because it was 1989. There was a roll-up cart next to the bed, and the credits were moving, and then I went out of consciousness. And the whole rest of my life is living that vow, knowing that I came here for a purpose. I came here to heal people with music. And then the full circle experience of not only becoming a board certified music therapist, I went to a Buddhist university for grad school. And in this Buddhist university, I was walking up to meditation class one of the first weeks of school, and I saw a depiction of Buddha, and he was young and thin and bald and had long brown robes and bare feet. And I knew that he was the man that was next to me, to my left. And so my near-death experience is my why. It is my why. I know I'm here to bring people to their higher consciousness through vibration and sound. I know that. And then my training at this Buddhist university, which is a school for psychology, I got my master's in spiritual psychology called Transpersonal Psychology from Naropa University in Boulder. That was my how. And I found in that class, through being present in learning the techniques of altered consciousness and different brainwave states, I learned how to use music to help people access the other side directly. So in my work, I use music, classical music, and crystal singing bowls, right? Like that provide different brainwave states, because when you use two sounds and frequencies that are very similar, they create what you call binaural beats or brainwave entrainment to take people into different theta, gamma brainwave states, right? So we have that. Then we go into a transpersonal space of leaving the body, leaving the ego, connecting fully with source through classical music programs. And these have been studied since the 50s. It's called the Bonnie method of guided imagery in music. When I learned that at Naropa, it was the closest that I'd come to heaven on this planet. And I will tell you that when you are there and you come back into this small experience of living in humanity, which feels constricted and it feels like a lot of pressure and it feels so limiting, right? In a way, you want to find a way to connect with that again. And so my entire purpose has become helping people connect to that place the way I did, because I think we should all be able to access that love and feel that experience. And also I believe in the power of music. So that's kind of what do we call it? Like in a nutshell, my near-death experience. And I wrote about that experience and many, many, many other mystical experiences that have continued to happen to me in my life that have kept me on this path. These synchronistic, mystical moments that you can't explain any other way, that I wanted people to hear about, so that they know we're not alone. We always have guidance, we always have support, and we can learn to tap into that and to learn how to communicate by leaving the constraints of the ego behind and being fully present with our higher self, letting the higher self take over and leaving the human limiting beliefs, right, behind. So, and I think it's really important during this time of uncertainty, where we're feeling the pressure of living in humanity on this planet, because the shadows are coming forth. They are just coming forward for us to look at individually, for us to look at collectively, so that we can choose this light, because we are all getting to be in an experience of great awakening. A great light is ahead of us. And it's just something that we all know as experiencers, but more so now than ever, like to help people get out of their mind and into like presence, right? So that's my near-death experience, and that's what I'm here to share today.
That's great, Ellen. I have a question I'd like to pose to you, related to what you just said. A lot of people say that there are some interesting times ahead of us.
Mhm.
There are going to be some challenging times.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what you think about the notion that um, we need the contrast.
Yeah.
We need to have the difficult times, that they contribute to our growth and maybe act as a means of spurring us to do something different.
Yeah. Well, when you think about anything worthwhile that you've ever done, it's come with an experience of growth, an experience of contrast. Uh, for women who've had children, right? The birthing process is not comfortable, but it is also beautiful, and it is also natural. And powerful. And even a lobster, like you've heard that whole, like the rabbi talking about the lobster who sheds its shell because it doesn't think about it. It just feels the constriction, the pressure, and then emerges into something new. The contrast, we signed up for this. We came here for this. And it was, as I've seen it and it's been shown to me, there are great vibrations in the tapestry of consciousness, right? In higher consciousness and in the light, in God, right? And as I saw these vibrations, there's massive vibrations that crossed, right? And in the crossing of these vibrations, there was creation, right? And I was shown that we in humanity have smaller vibrations that can't be created by the higher vibrations of source. And I apologize if it doesn't make sense, but I'm shown these things in visions of vibration or light most of the time. And so the way it was shown to me is that when we create, when we speak, when we go through these experiences of contrast and we choose love over fear, love over fear, love over fear, each time we're lifting ourselves into a new consciousness, we're lifting ourselves into a new vibration, we are creating vibrations that actually continually expand the whole of the tapestry of higher consciousness and God energy. So if you think of it that way, these are opportunities. And the more pressure that we feel in humanity, the more we're being tested and lifted into higher consciousness by choosing love. So how do we choose love? Can we consistently choose love, choose love, choose love instead of fear, instead of judgment, instead of criticism? And sometimes that means even looking at ourselves when we think we know what is right and we see injustice in the world. Can we hold love for those and see the light and try to bring a loving awareness to even those injustices we see in the world? Now that is difficult because we want people to be happy and healthy and treated well, and at least I speak for myself, right? So I see an injustice and I think how can I move away from judgment and then move into love? So yes, the contrast is important. It is why we're here. And the more we choose love collectively, the more we get to see that heaven on earth that we are building, believe it or not, by looking at the contrast, by looking at the shadow, by acknowledging the shadow and pulling the wool off of our eyes and saying, I see it and I want to choose a more loving way. And I don't know how it's going to happen, but I just keep choosing love.
I think if more of us could do that, I find myself challenged because as a human, I have my human reaction to things.
Yes, yes, we
But
do.
but what's interesting and I think most people here could probably relate to this, when we understand that there's something more to us than that,
Yeah,
then that allows us to maybe step back and say, hey, wait a minute, this reaction I'm having is a human one.
yeah,
Uh, how should I look at this differently? And as you put it,
yeah.
how can I look at it through loving eyes rather than purely human eyes?
And what's really interesting about my work is that when I meet with someone one-on-one or in a group, they get the benefit. So I hold the space so that they can find their highest knowing for themselves. And so I'll have people come to me because they're in grief or because they're in pain or because they're disidentifying with some part of themselves that they thought would always be, right? Like for me, it was a very unexpected divorce, right? Like I saw myself as a mother and a wife, and I had three fairly young children, and I did not expect it to come. And so I had to disidentify with who I thought that I was in order to see who I really was, and also to become empowered and learn that through that experience, I could be better for it by, holding myself in love and by taking care of myself. So I'll have clients come in, they'll go into a journey, and it's the most beautiful experience because they'll move into the music, they'll see themselves on the other side, or they'll see themselves with a loved one passed. And then they might feel a pain in their body. And I'll say, let's go into that pain and have a conversation with your heart. So what is that feeling? Okay, it's heavy. Oh, it's cold. It's heavy. It's constricted. Right. What does it need right now? And sometimes it'll say it needs nothing. right? Or I don't know what it needs. So we say, okay, well, give it your confusion or give it nothing, give it your nothingness. We feed it with what it wants until it says that it needs love or it needs light or it grows flowers or whatever happens in their imagery. I had a client last week who she said she needed acceptance. So we got to the point where she flooded her heart with acceptance from her higher self. We witnessed the light moving in. She felt it. And she said, oh, flowers are growing out from my heart now. Oh, they turned into purple orchids. I'm not sure why they're purple orchids, but we just go with it. Okay. All right. Well, what's happening? The purple orchid, the wind took it off of her and she saw it land in a body of water. And then she started crying because she says that purple orchids were the flowers that we put in the water for my mother when she passed in Hawaii. And they represent her mother. And then her mother came forward with a message for her. So it's like we get out of our head and our story and what we believe and think about the world and the story of the world and the story of our upbringing, and we connect directly with a higher source or a loved one past or an ascended master or an angelic being or a light being or whatever it is, right? Because they're guiding the experience, not me. So I'm following it and just prompting and holding space and bringing in messages as I see them. I write down the messages on the side. I give them the reading at the end completely of what I see, but I never share in the moment what I see because I don't want to influence the journey of the person that I'm working with. But it's always meaningful. I had another client who she had a light on her shoulder and was flying through the clouds, but the clouds were really dense, but the light was breaking up the clouds in front of her, right? Because I use imagery. This is how I do it with the music. Then I wrote down in the notes, I wrote, mother is here, because I got the message that her mother's here. And then I wrote down the word I wrote animals. So I said nothing, but after this woman had gone through the clouds and had landed on the other side, and she said, oh, the light came off of my shoulder and it's in front of me. It's my mother. So this is another one where her mother had passed. And she said, Mom, my mother's here. I have a question for her. And I said, she's already answered, but what is your question? And she said, how does she show herself to me? And I said, through the animals, right? And because she asked me to tell her in the session what I was getting. So I knew she wanted me to answer. And then it came to her that her mother would come to her through an animal that was coming into her life to help her through this transition. And a dog did come into her life, or will come into her life. I'm not sure where that is right now, but this is how it goes. So you never know. And sometimes it's a communication between the body. The body needs to speak. There's a pain in the body. There's a discomfort. Okay, let it exist. Let it communicate. All right, we talked to the pain in your throat, in your back, in your shoulders, and now you're lifted into another light realm. There's a message here. Oh, you're lifted into another light realm, because every time you receive the message through the imagery process from one light realm, your higher self takes you to the next one right away. It's like being in a movie. And it gets us out of our head. And that's, I think, the my biggest honor in this world is to hold space for that.
You made a comment earlier that I'd like to ask a question about. When you were in your near-death experience, you were allowed to see how your decision to stay on the other side would impact your father's journey.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Do you remember anything specific about that, or is it more of a kind of a general sense?
It was a general knowing. There were some things that I just knew in that moment. I knew that when I woke up, my grandmother would pass soon after. I was told that there was and that always weighed on me because as a 12-year-old kid, I thought it was my fault because I knew it on the other side. She had been going through cancer treatment for lung cancer, and it just wasn't possible for her to recover. But I didn't know all that because honestly, I had lost all my memory before the accident. So when I came out of the coma, there's this woman that I still knew great love with because I could feel energy from people. I didn't know who they were, but I knew their energy, and there was great love in this woman. But I knew she would pass. And so I held that knowledge and kept it to myself and felt almost guilty for knowing it. And felt extremely guilty that the horse that kicked me in the head had to be put down because somehow I learned through a friend that the horse had, after it kicked me, had run through a fence and broken its leg, and they said it had to be put down. So holding that guilt, but also coming back into a world as a 12-year-old kid where I know so much about energy and getting messages and about why we're here and hold this consciousness, and everything was magical and everything is wonderful. And also like not knowing who I was, right? Didn't remember birthdays or first days of school or family members, right? So I pretty much had a crash course in developing my intuitive gifts because that's all I had to go on. Even my words would be kind of bumbled up for a while. So my book is a lot about that and how I developed these intuitive skills through the gift of not knowing who I was when I came back and only knowing my connection to the other side. That's the thing that I knew. I knew that golden light. I knew love. I knew everything about that and nothing about humanity, really. So,
Were you able to reacquire all that past knowledge?
no, I was told that whatever I would remember within 5 years. So I have maybe five memories that came to me during that time. And I've tried some, past, I've tried some regression. I've tried hypnosis. I've tried things. And every now and then in a spiritual experience, I'll have a memory. Rarely, but it started after I turned 40, and when I came back into my spiritual path after my divorce, I started doing some really intense prayer, like just started praying and connecting to my higher self more and more, and believing in myself, stepping out and doing this work more and more. Started getting more messages, more downloads, more information, more spiritual gifts started to come through. Then every now and then in a meditative state, I would get a memory, and then I've been able to call my parents and say, hey, did this really happen? But it's nothing significant. It's like, I think the most recent one was me riding in the back of a school bus and like feeling the bouncing of the bus. And I thought, well, that's pretty basic. Like anybody, maybe it has to be real. Like, how could it not? Right. But of course, they can't validate that one. So, every now and then I'll get one. I'll say, did this happen? Is this a memory? And they'll say yes or no, or I don't know. And that's my life. But it's really about being present for me with what is now and just feeling the gratitude to get to be here that keeps me more focused on my mission, like on this planet, I guess you could say. Yeah.
So there's an interconnectedness. I guess that's partly what I was raising that, the interconnectedness between you and your father.
Yeah.
Um, and my observation is that your life since then has been, you've chosen to be an instrument to help people.
Mhm.
Um, do you get pretty regular opportunities to do that? I mean, are you focused enough on that?
Constantly.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, shoot. Yes, because first of all, my work, I work with people. It's in the spiritual realm. There's message coming through. But I've learned that when we're tapped in as light workers, we often get experiences in life that we can create an understanding around the contrast and then take it back to people. So on my Facebook page, I'll take experiences in my own life of like well, I say that now is the time where we're culling what no longer works for us, and we're actively moving out of these old ways of being in the world so that we can live in more freedom and more love, right? So there'll be experiences in my life where I'll have a lesson that I learned that then I put back out to the planet. So, a couple of days ago, for instance, I was sitting and meditating as the sun was going down because I was dealing with challenges in wanting to help people in my life who were in great pain and and wanting to take it on for them. So I think a lot of times, like as healers, we try that. We want to take it on. We want to take the pain. We want to take it away. We don't want that person to go through their journey. But the message was, this is their journey. Just as you trust in source to protect you, and that there's a reason for everything, which there's a reason for everything. Trust that that is true for another as well. And you can hold space for them and give them love, but don't lose yourself in that. And so I went and I put my hands on the ground, and I discharged any old energy that no longer served me. I was watching the sun as it was going down, and I received these messages as I was watching the sun go down, that we are all protected, that everything's happening for a reason. I saw a powerful ray of violet light come down. And I see often in colors and light forms and flames, like of like purifying and cleansing and clearing. I know it sounds wild, but this is how I see it. As I'm sitting with someone, I'll see these rays kind of come down, and the color of the ray helps me understand what's coming through for them as well. So I saw this violet ray come down, cleansing and clearing and anchoring into earth, like this higher knowing, and the earth responding that I've got this. Like I can hold this. I'm okay. I'm strong. I've been around long before humanity. This is the earth spoke in her consciousness too, that she is lifting with us, right? And so I had this whole download. If you want to read more of it, it's on my Facebook page. I do those when I get a download. I put them out there regularly. I was going to put downloads at the end of every chapter of this book, but my mentor, who is a client of mine, Jack Canfield, he wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul books back in the years. He's a great friend of mine. He's a client. I used to meet with him in writing this story because he said, Ellen, you have an amazing story. Just write 80 pages, just 80 pages. And so it took about a year for me to agree to it, because I was like, who's going to want to listen to me, right? Like, who's going to want to hear my story? He's like, just 80 pages. And then he helped me title the book. And then it was kind of an idea, as he mentored me through the book writing process, that instead of putting downloads at the end of the book, I would put experiences and imagery experiences that would help others learn to connect with their spirit guides, or to transform the contrast into alchemy, or write letters of reflection on life, or to manifest, because there are some manifestation practices that I learned that have been downloaded to me that have worked for me, that I want other people to know how to use. And then reflecting on people and teachers that come into your life. So each chapter then now has these exercises of journaling to connect more with your higher self. But yes, I am constantly connected to source. This is my life. Like I pray. That's the other thing. I was looking at the sun and this whole meditation yesterday. I can't believe it was yesterday, because it was the day before yesterday. So much happened yesterday that felt like miracles to me. And I feel like it was because of this time that I took to sit and meditate and say these affirmations, these I am affirmations, that I believe fully that anything we say after the word I am is the most powerful thing we can say on this planet. And we can co-create through saying that. So I remember I was just saying this I am affirmation over and over and over again after this meditation, just watching the sun go down. And then the next day, everything in my life just changed. It lifted. And so if anything else, to give that to people and like give them a resource they can look at. And I do have resources in this book that I've used that helped me as well. So yep, that's it. The book is kind of a how-to, like how to move into connection with source, how to get more messages, how to reflect on your life and see that everything happened for you and has led you to where you are now, even if you're in the thick of it, to just trust and know that this is where you're supposed to be. You're not broken. Yeah.
Yeah, I've read that there really isn't anything bad from a spiritual perspective. The things that we're going through are just things we go through.
Mm.
And it's only through human eyes that we uh, perceive them as being good and bad. Would you agree with that?
I do. And it's hard as a human, it's such a challenging thing. Like to be able to hold ourselves in our own light through everything that we're going through. That is what I feel is the experience of life. I remember getting a download once where I had a whole conversation and I said, why is there so much pain in this human existence, right? And I want to pull up the downloads so that I can actually read it because it came directly to me. But I remember learning that it's all an opportunity to learn. And I want to find the download so I can read it because I can't speak it for my human self the way that it comes through to me. But maybe we'll do that later if I can find it in this session today. Yeah.
We have a question that Liz Rose has submitted, and I think this is an excellent place to talk a little bit about your music therapy. She says, do you find the modality of music therapy is effective for healing in people with deep, complex trauma,
Yes.
such as CPTSD? And you mentioned you utilize classical music in your practice. What
Yeah.
specifically is classical?
Well, so the classical music that I use is from the Romantic period. It could be Beethoven, it could be Debussy, anything that's evocative and mostly instrumental, though I do use some opera music, uh Holst even, like that's a composer. It's classical symphonic music, right? It's symphony. So and yes, music is the universal language. It expresses what conscious thinking cannot, what words cannot think. We can feel emotions in music and move them through our body without having to consciously connect with a story. And that's why music is so powerful. It lowers cortisol levels in the blood. It regulates heart rate. It regulates your breathing. If when you're using crystal singing bowls like I do, it raises nitric oxide levels in the blood. So we relax, we calm down, we heal faster, right? All of these things about music therapy are super powerful. PTSD is a huge field for music therapists. You want to find one who works in the psychological realm like I do. My master's is in psychology and music therapy. So I have the traditional training as a music therapist, but also I understand the implications of working with the emotional body. And then I bring in the transpersonal through my near-death experience and my training at Naropa, where I studied different brainwave states and altered states of consciousness. That is like transcending the ego out of the emotional body into the higher realms so that you can receive that information directly. But music therapy is an incredible modality, and sound healing is getting a lot of good press and scientific bodies of research now. There is the study of cymatics, I think it's called, where I think John Stewart Reed is his name. He had a spiritual experience in the King's Chamber and a pyramid in Egypt. He was going to study sound in the King's Chamber to see how it affected plates, where he would put like a metal plate and then sand on top of the plate. And when they would ring the sand would make different geometric shapes based on the different pitch of sound that he's playing, right? But he happened to hurt his back before he went on this trip to Egypt and almost didn't take the trip, but he ended up going into the King's Chamber with this backache and doing it anyway. And they played the sound for this plate. And instead of doing geometric shapes and patterns like he expected and had seen in the lab, in his cymatics work, I think that's what it's called, he started seeing hieroglyphics. Well, the hieroglyphics were about the back, and then some other they were not geometric shapes and circles and mandala looking things that he was used to. They were actual hieroglyphics. Well, after 20 minutes of being in this room and seeing these hieroglyphics that somehow related to the back, the human back, his back pain went away. So then he went on to have a huge body of research around sound healing, and he took one of, I think, his most famous studies. We took a sample of blood from someone, split it into two, put one in a sound chamber with no sound and one into a sound chamber with classical music. The one with no sound died. The cells died of, as you would expect them to, being outside of the human body. And the other one in the music chamber actually barely lost life. So I don't know how to explain it scientifically, but the cells looked almost fresh. And so that difference in, I guess the blood samples was enough for him to even further his research and My goodness, I mean, there are so many research studies now that are showing that cancer patients who tone, which is vocalizing on certain sounds in the body over crystal singing bowls, like they experience less perception of pain. They have lower stress levels. They tend to recover much more quickly. And even I myself, I had Lyme disease, and I write about it in my book. The two bowls that I bought at first were the D bowl and the A bowl. And I don't know why. I was told to buy those bowls. They come into my life. I go through a journey of having these bowls and going through the spiritual experience of living with Lyme disease after moving from Western medicine into more Eastern medicine, using the bowls regularly, starting to play them for myself and for others. And my Lyme went into remission. And I talk about that journey more in my book. There's a lot to it. It was more of a spiritual healing than it was a physical one. But I found out that Lyme doesn't tend to survive well at the frequencies of the D bowl and the A bowl. And by the way, the D and the A are perfect fifth apart. So if you're a musician, you know that's a really stable interval, and it represents perfect harmony in the body. So D and A together. Then you add the minor third if you're a musician, so that you're kind of bringing in a little bit more dissonance. And then the minor seventh, so you have the minor seventh and the root of a bowl. Like let's say you have a D, an F sharp, an A, a C sharp. Well, then you have the C sharp and the D are relatively like a half step apart. That's what creates binaural beats. That's what creates the brainwave entrainment. It's like very dissonant, and then you move back to the perfect fifth. So these are the things I've been learning for like 20 years. I'm fascinated with the science. I'm fascinated with the human body and how we respond to sound. I believe that everyone should have some type of sound healing tool in their home that they use regularly, and just feel the resonance of crystal or brass bowls or harp or piano or something. But yeah, music therapy is amazing.
Tell us a little bit about what a music therapy session would look like. If I was coming to you and
Mhm.
you were going to give me a therapy session, what would you take me through the steps of what you would do?
Well, I can see people over Zoom or in person. People show up, they have an intention. Intention is always the root of our work together, because we are made of mostly water element, right? So of vibration. So when we speak intention over our bodies and over our soul, then we can use the sound of the bowls to kind of transfer and bring that light in, right? And there's so much I want to teach everyone about the consciousness of water and the water element within, because water at its most basic molecular level, they found emits a blue light. So it is light as well. And I realize now that my process, which I downloaded from source, like after all this time, is actually using the water element in the body to transport light through sound. So we meet over Zoom, or we'll meet in person. There'll be an intention. We do toning, we do vocalizing on different body sounds to clear energy in the body, and I go with that intuitively. I'll often pair it with an oil if anybody has oils in their collection that we can bring us a more sensorial experience into the process, so that when you go into the imagery, if your body feels like it's real, it doesn't differentiate between real and imagined. It responds as if everything's real. So we'll pair it with an oil. We'll move into the bowls. I'll use different frequencies, do downloads of light and imagery, and I'll see the light going to different parts of their body, and they just sit there and receive the sound. And I tell them where the light is going. Then we move into a classical music journey. The classical music journey is when the person starts to communicate with me what they're seeing. So it's a dialogue. They're really out of it. They're completely relaxed, even if they don't know it. And then they start to journey through the movie of their experience. So they'll start in a place like maybe a field, and then they might be lifted into the sun, or they might feel something in their body. We'll communicate with the body. We'll get whatever messages we need to get. I take notes the whole time. And then the journey takes about an hour and a half. We close the journey with a reading from me. I'll typically provide a reading, tell them what came through for me, let them process what happened. They typically feel very light, very euphoric, very connected, very hopeful. They leave a totally different person than the person that comes in to see me. And that's so cool. And then I stay connected with them afterwards so that they can continue to integrate the process. So a lot of times after a session, people will have dreams. They'll sleep really well that night. They'll see animals that come to them, and we'll discuss that over the next day or weeks. And then I also have a meditation group, like it's the donation-based meditation group. I'll put them into the meditation group. So every Wednesday they can kind of reconnect with that energy and see if any more messages come through to them. So that's kind of what it looks like. Group sessions, I mean, they're amazing. So we travel different places all over the country. My partner and I, he does the breath work. He's my husband now. He does the breath work. I do the bowls. And people will have shared experiences in groups. So it's very different. They don't, that they go into their own journey. And one time we sold out of the Hyatt in Salt Lake City. And we finished the journey. They did the breath work. They did the bowls. They did the journeying. And this woman, she spoke up and raised her hand and said, I came here because I wanted to see my father. He passed away. I wanted to know that he was okay. He came to me in this chapel in New Orleans that we had visited before when I was pregnant. And he came to me and he told me, you are enough. And she said, that's the message that I needed to hear. Another woman that was a few rows back, she said, I know that chapel in New Orleans, and I saw it in my imagery too, and I saw your father. So she said, so there's a shared experience. And then a third woman waited till the very end, and she said, I couldn't let this close without saying this. I was gifted this bracelet before I came in today. I held it in my hand during the whole experience. And I know that it was meant for someone else and it was meant for you. And the bracelet said, I am enough. So she picked up the bracelet and took it to the woman. So the shared experiences are kind of where I'm moving to next. I want to study that because it shows a collective consciousness that we don't often get to identify, and we don't really get to study. So I think that's kind of where I'm going next, is to try and find that proof of shared consciousness through this journey that we do. Yeah.
Nathan poses a question.
Okay.
Can we self-administer binaural beats or solfeggio frequencies in our lives effectively without guidance from a music therapist such as yourself? How do we learn what is best?
I think I would probably refer you to the Sound Healing Institute to look at that. Yes, you can. You just need to know, which frequencies to buy for the bowls. And I do help people with that when they want to purchase bowls. I have an affiliate link for a bowls place that I use. And if you use my link, I'll help you find bowls that would provide that. The thing is, when you're you can do that. You can train yourself to do that. You can train yourself to move into theta brainwave states to manifest. Absolutely. It takes a bit of practice, and you might want a coach to help you get there for the first few times, and then take it from there when you've been able to get to a place where you can basically witness your own consciousness outside of yourself. So if you think of the word freedom, right? We're thinking of the word freedom. So if you're observing yourself thinking the word freedom, then you are not your consciousness. There is something that is not you that's observing the consciousness of you thinking the word freedom. Does that make sense? It's kind of complicated. But if you can see that we are more than our thinking, that there's a consciousness beyond that we actually are witnessing, then we can start to pull ourselves out of our body, move into those theta states, use the binaural beats, use brainwave entrainment. I think it's more effective to learn with someone else, and then you can start to practice it on your own, especially when you're going to sleep too. But that's a long answer to your question, but yes. And I would say go to the Sound Healing Institute to look at maybe some good examples of how to do that and good training. I have a course there that you could also take about crystal singing bowls, And I do have a recorded course that I did last week that talks about the science of nitric oxide in the blood, the different frequencies, the different chakras, the different colors and pitches for different chakras, and how to lead sessions using what I'm talking about for the bowl regularly. So, and I do have a discount on it because an education website bought it from me and they're selling it for 200, but I'm selling it for 165. And then you get the meditation group along with it. And then you get guidance from me. Yeah. So you get a little bit of extra stuff if you want to learn that. So, yeah.
Bob just put a comment in that apparently
Yeah.
her go-to meditation is a crystal ball, or a crystal bowl rather.
Oh, yeah.
She said it's very, just constantly, instantly calming.
Yeah,
And
I would love to give that experience to people today. I do have my tourmaline and Larimar bowl with me here
all
that I could,
right,
yeah.
do
So,
that now.
yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So I did put my phone number, and this is my business number, in the comments. If anybody wants to text me about anything we've talked about today, I can get back to you with links. And information about my meditation group or my classes or my book or the movie that I was in last year called Beyond the Grave, which is on Amazon, where I share a little bit about my near-death experience. It won the Best Paranormal Film of the Year at the Cannes Film Festival last year. So it's a really cool documentary on what happens after death. So, but for now, let's take a moment and breathe deeply. Just settle yourself wherever you are. Allow your exhale to be twice as long as your inhale. And as you breathe, just imagine a light flowing down over the top of your head. As this light travels down, feel it flowing into your mind, traveling the channels of the tissues of the brain. Feel the fullness of the expansion of this light, connecting to every cell in your mind. Feel it moving down your spine, lifting your spine as if it's pulling you up toward the light which you are. See that perfect version of you just above the top of your head, pouring this light more and more into your body. Hold your closed eye gaze, looking at the back of the third eye. Feel the expansion of light moving behind your eyes, becoming the water element, clearing your eyes of anything that no longer serves. Becoming a luminous light presence as it moves into the sinuses, into the mouth, softening the back of the tongue. Swallowing down this light presence, feel it filling the hollow at the base of your neck, flowing into and around your heart. And witness the soft pulsing of your heart as it transports this light to every cell in your body in infinite wisdom. Feel the light bringing this beautiful consciousness into every cell with every beat of your heart. Feel the fullness of light collecting at the base of your rib cage, filling your abdomen, bringing nurturing compassion into your belly. Feel the fullness of this light moving down into the base of your spine, pushing on the pelvic floor, down into the knees, and out through the soles of the feet. And feel yourself become the embodiment of every good quality in this light. Feel it pouring into the earth and traveling across the earth as if you are the conduit between heaven and earth. See the earth lifting to a new consciousness. Feel yourself being lifted alongside the earth as if it is rising to meet this light, lifting you from all the struggles of the past, healing the earth, humanity, all the plant life, the animal life. And see the center of the earth open and receive your light, the core of the earth. As above, so below. See this beautiful light circling the globe. See the earth receive your light and send it directly back up to your presence, where it is requalified and sent back down again. Hold yourself in this light and just notice how good it feels. And know that you are better for this. And so it is. Take a deep cleansing breath. Feel your body back in this space. Notice any differences that you feel in your body. And slowly open your eyes. Come back into this place now. And just give gratitude to your presence, because sending love to that higher presence, that version of you that is completely connected to God, that gratitude, that exchange of grace and gratitude and love, that's what lifts you and continues to lift you into higher realms of existence on this planet. And that's how we begin to learn to communicate so that we can co-create. Thank you. Yeah.
It was very relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel lighter and at peace.
Yeah. Anybody else want to comment on your experience?
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Remember, it's your presence that's coming through. I just get to hold the space so that you can feel that and start to learn to communicate and then to collaborate and then to co-create. So stay attuned to any messages that may come through dreams, animals, nature, even song lyrics that come over and over in your head. That's a message. So thank you, Bhavna. And if you want to continue this work and meet with me, I do have like several big giant bowls. I have 22-inch bowl and all the way down to a 12-inch bowl. And we meet every Wednesday on Facebook. I go live because it has the capability to let me broadcast the overtones of the bowls so that there can be binaural beats and brainwave entrainment. It's a 15-minute meditation every Wednesday. Some people come live. Sorry, that's my dog. Some people come live and some people listen to it as they're going to sleep. But it doesn't matter if you're there live or not. We always have a beautiful communication afterwards. You can write in the comments whatever came through. If you see colors, I am able to tell you in real time, like, okay, if you see green, it typically represents the heart. Yellow represents, personal power, autonomy, willpower, warrior energy. Yeah, I get to tell you that and how the colors play off of each other for your healing. So, for instance, sometimes people will see blue and green together. It's usually a healing of the voice by speaking truth from the heart, or it is healing the heart by speaking truth into the world. So there are so many different ways this comes through. It could be different for anybody and everybody. And then also there's animal medicine that comes through my work in these sessions. So if you see an animal, you can type it in the side here and I'll tell you what it means now. And of course, we do that every Wednesday as well. Yeah. So, and that's all on my website. It's the meditation group. It's donation based. You can do whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever you think it's worth. You can stop at any time. And it's just a great, thank you so much, Jim. It's just a great community. I just love it. I get to be myself and kind of just really do the downloads. There've been a lot of downloads about how to get through the contrast of life right now, how to alchemize the contrast into joy, into lessons, into knowing, into love. And then sometimes I'll have I had a manifestation download when I was in Cabo for my honeymoon. I received this whole way of manifesting and moving into different timeline experiences. And so I share that in the meditation group. It was very specifically told to me how to do this process of shifting through different timelines and choosing the one that is your highest and greatest good in order to step into that. And how do animals react to the tones? Well, if I were to play this bowl, Comet, that's why they both came in here, because they love it. But if I played this for Comet, he will howl. Are you going to sing? Not today? Maybe not. But he's the singing dog on Instagram, so I put him on my page sometimes. I can't have him out. Animals love it. A lot of my clients will bring their pets with them. They will either lay on them or next to them during the session. And I've had people who've taken my crystal bowl classes who work with large animals. In fact, one of them had wild buffalo on her property and wanted to try and bring the buffalo over so that she could feed them and develop trust. So she came to the class, learned to play the crystal bowls, and then we did a Zoom follow-up, and she showed me how the buffalo babies came over and listened to her across. They didn't get too close, but it was just the coolest thing. So the animals love it. Absolutely. Animals, yes.
So one of the things that I got from reading your book was that Ellen has been through a lot of challenging times. So I get to, in my sitting here and watching her talk, it's obvious that this path that she's on, the things she had to go through were important lead ups to this. She talks about synchronicities in her life, and her book talks about that. But it's so nice to see just the enthusiasm, and then hear about how what you're doing is helping people.
Oh my gosh. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful because there are people who will say that a message resonated with them so clearly in a session that it changed their life. And I don't even sometimes I don't even believe it when people tell me that. I just think they're being nice. But the people who came to celebrate the sacred union that I just had with my husband, they stood up and spoke about how our work has changed their lives. And all we're doing is holding space for each participant to meet with their higher presence. That's it. Because you are your best guru. You are your best healer. You have everything you need. You just need the ego needs to get out of the way so that you can access it. And I'm very lucky to have found a way to help people access that for themselves. So
it occurs to me, Ellen, that people who might be watching this on our YouTube channel may not see the comments. If you care to go to explore this further with Ellen, her website is www.wellnessmusictherapy.com.
Yes, thank you. And I will share this on my YouTube channel as well. I have a Facebook online dedicated donated meditation group for donation based. It's called Your Sacred Space. You can find information on my website. My book is called Waking Up in Heaven, Living with Purpose Through Afterlife Wisdom. You can find it on Amazon. It's up for an award at the Conscious Life Expo next month. If anybody happens to pick it up or wants to vote for me, the voting's going on through the end of January, and I would be just so overly grateful if you could vote for my book. I also do private sessions. I do group sessions. We travel regularly to bring this work to the world. We'll be in Kentucky in April. We'll be in Santa Barbara this weekend. We'll be in LA in February. And then May, end of May, we'll be in Portland, Oregon for a convention there. So we're always traveling, always looking for new places, and we'll be back at IANS. Hopefully getting to do this work, if we can do another workshop breakout in Chicago in August. So we've got some things coming up all the country.
Maybe you can try using your bowls to drive the fires away from Santa Barbara area.
Right? I know. I was just reading about that today. You know, it's interesting when you're outside with the bowls, we've seen all sorts of really cool phenomenon. You know, we capture pictures that look like bubbles of light, like rainbow light, and I put them on my Instagram page when we catch that. We've been even holding sessions when it was drizzling, and you could see the rain falling on the other side of the fence. It's just wild. I mean, I can't make this stuff up, but my clients, like the whole workshop, would wake up and say, "Was it raining?" And I was like, "Yes, it was raining, but it barely a drop hit us. Like we'd have one drop here and there." And they're like, "I think I felt something." The wind will pick up, the sun will come out, the clouds will dissipate. It's just really cool, especially when everyone's singing together on a pitch, like toning together. So.
Well, I want to make sure everybody's had a chance to ask questions. Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to verbally express yourself or put another comment in the chat room.
Definitely.
Well, we won't have Ellen much longer.
I did want to finish that download because I remembered a little bit about it. That I said, okay, so it had something to do with the salt of the earth, that the message came to me that we are nourishment to the earth, right? And so through us, like we are the salt of the earth, the nourishment to the earth. And we come here to lift consciousness by going through these lessons or experiences of contrast in order to choose love. And every time we choose love, we lift the earth. And so I said, then, what do we get out of it? So I'm kind of asking, like, well, so what do humans get through it? And so it's the experience of life, because when we are on the other side in consciousness, everything is whole, everything is perfect, everything is known. So having the experience of life, we actually get the contrast, we get all of the emotions, all of the feelings, all of the energy, the knowing, the lessons, so that we can expand that light more and more. And I just wanted to circle back to that because I was pulling up my little list of downloads here. I've got them all in my phone. That's going to be the next book. This one is There's No Separateness. We think we're separate from the earth. We think we are separate from others, but we're not. We are all part of the same. We think that even what humans create is separate from earth, but it is not, because it is all of one. We are one with the air and one with the concrete. We are one with all we create. When we remove our fear of death and the concept of that, we see that life is an experience that is quick and fleeting, and the reality is not our experience here, but it is of that in the light. And the point is that we get to choose the light more and more. I asked, why is the contrast important? And they said, it is to activate the free will. Everything has to come through the choice of free will. It is free will and light. And by acting through free will, we unlock more light. It must be that way. And then they went on to say, the experiences keep coming. Think about it. Why? It's because it's another opportunity. The light is not always the path of least resistance. It is not always the easiest path. This is the choice. This is why the choice to stay in light is so important. So then I asked, will the human continue to choose the light? That's the question they asked me. Will the human continue to choose the light? If they do, then they are lifting consciousness even more. It's about elevating the human experience, about lifting the consciousness of humanity. So humans understand the importance of free will. There's no separation. And the idea of separation brings stress to humanity. The way to help the earth and to bring more light is to be in your gift, to be in what you love, not to dive into other realms of experience, because you are here for your experience alone. You can support others through your unique gifts. Know thyself. It is the way that rises all. So that is, I have so many of these. Like that's going to be my next book. It's just like all these downloads as they come. I try to put them on the internet, on my pages, but I feel so grateful. Yeah.
Well, you're a blessing.
Oh, thank
It's
you. So are you.
wonderful. I'm so happy that you've been here this evening.
Thank you.
I think you started by making a comment along the lines that I'm paraphrasing, live in love. We're here to learn how to love, to be love for one another.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I'm taking away this evening. Try to always put that at the forefront of your mind as you live your day.
Yes. Always. And then we rise
Hey,
together.
all right, everybody. Thank you for this evening.
Thank
We'll
you.
have this on our YouTube channel. Um, Ellen, you've been a blessing to us this evening. Thank you.